If this was the last dance of the night, will you join me till the morning light? Dance the night away 'cause it feels right. You can't stop, no. You can't stop, no. You can't stop.
All right, what's going on, everybody? I am the one, the only, the late WOOKIE this week. We're late. It's late. Everything's late, but we're here now, so everything's fine. How are you? What's going on, Drazkor?
I mean, normally when you refer to a person as late, I mean, they're passed. They're passed on. They're dead.
Oh,
So
no, we're just late.
Yeah, it's recording
So
later in the week. Then.
We're recording later in the week. Normally we record on Thursdays. Today's not Thursday, it's Saturday. Work stuff, family stuff, yada yada, so on and so forth. Not going to bother anybody with it. So Drazkor's doing well. We got the Ewok Jr. What's up, Ewok?
Hello, Keyforge community. Great to be here.
You don't sound thrilled.
There's this week has been a lot.
I hear you.
We finished well, but for the teaching group out there,
Yeah.
and for all parents, my students finished. I actually had them a full week, half day on Friday, and then the second half of Friday, I needed to go ahead and, first of all, write their report cards, everything, all the standards, all the comments, pack up my room, and surprise for you, most people don't know this, but a teacher is oftentimes given a contract, but it doesn't guarantee them like what grade they're at or what building they're at. So I'm going to a new position, fourth grade again, and to a different building. So that was packing up my room, doing report cards, and I'm still not done. So I'm a bit exhausted. It's been early mornings, late evenings with no additional pay. So we'll do the best, but we got this.
Yay for Ewok. Oh, wait. No, not yay for Ewok.
Is this building significantly further or closer to your house? Or?
It doubles my time and drive, so I'm moving further away, but
fun
it'll be fine.
times. It'll be fine. It's all fine here now. How are you? As we continue on with the Star Wars references, but we got I feel like we got a lot to talk about this week. I don't know how much it's actually going to be. It feels like big news. It feels like
it's big news. It's news.
Big.
Is it big news? Okay, so
I think so.
Obviously, we had the mother of all sales. I wish I had some form of acronym for it, but I don't. We had.
Well, Drazkor's got something for it. I mean, he's been waiting, right?
I know. He's been chomping at the bit.
He's been chomping, so I think this is... You don't need an...
But was it a Fantasy Flight sale, or was it an Asmodee sale?
Asmodee.
It was on the
Asmodee website.
Yep.
Yes.
So if you missed it, I did put out a tweet. Tons of stuff like Worlds Collide, Mass Mutation. I think they were literally at $1 a deck.
Yeah, 99
cents.
Yep, 99 cents a deck.
Free shipping over $40.
The sleeves, I believe, were at like 64 cents. The Keyforge backed sleeves were at 64 cents. The tournament sleeves were at like 64 cents.
40 cents.
40 cents?
Yeah,
it's like 40.
I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. Well, they've changed the prices.
They have.
Yeah.
So tournament sleeves are at 40 cents. The sweet deck vault boxes, which the black, blue, and red, which have like space for 3 different decks, and then your keys and some other bits on the bottom, those are down to $3.50 a pop.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of 35.
Were those the 3-pack ones, or is that a 1-1? Yeah, those are down to super cheap. I think I paid $30 for mine when they first came out.
Yep, they're saying 35 right now.
And then they had the deck book. I think I know those are like $1.50 or something like that. I'm trying to remember now, but I'm having a hard time remembering. Yeah, it was like $1.50 or something like that.
Except for the black ones were still expensive for whatever reason.
Somebody was saying it was the ink. I'm like, what?
I forgot to lower the price on those.
Yeah. I mean,
there was a similar number of those in stock.
Because later on in the week, at one point in time, the 2-player starter sets for it was flip flops. So the 2-player starter sets for Worlds Collide early on in the sale were still at like $20 or something like that, and the Mass Mutation ones were like super cheap. And then as the week went on, they flip flopped. And now I think the other one's super cheap again. The mass speed. I think they're all just super cheap now. So either way, tens of thousands of decks. Oh, they sold out, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, especially mass mutation. It was real fast. Like
28,000 were available at the start of the sale. They're now sold out. I'm not sure where we got that number. We're Archon's Corner. We might have pulled it from our butt, or we now have Drazcor, Drazcor and Ewok who keep us in line with numbers.
Yes, we are also good at pulling out of butts, but actually somebody else pulled this out of their butt. But there's
this is from someone else's butt.
Exactly. But there's reason to believe it's correct. So, because what you can do, it turns out, at Asmodee's website is if you go in and put a ridiculously high quantity for whatever it is you're buying, it will. Then you hit the little recalculate cost link. It will then force that quantity down to the number that they think they have in stock.
Okay.
So somebody figured this out relatively early on and posted over in Sanctimonious that there were 28,000 decks, decks available. And we think there was a similar, it was maybe even more, I think I heard of Worlds Collide available. I'm not 100% sure, but I did see the post saying 28,000 mass mutation decks at the start of the sale, which was sometime on Saturday.
Yeah, it was Saturday
early afternoon. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I thought it was a joke at first. I was sitting with my wife and my oldest daughter, but we were getting ready to watch my youngest with her dance recital, and I just happened to be there, and I just looked down, and I'm like, all right, Joker. Because that's who I first saw the post from. Like, well, you got me. For $1, I'll go ahead and throw some money at it. And I couldn't get back, but I also didn't have the other issues that other people had with the website.
Lots of people having issues with the website. Obviously, I'm sure this drove once news got out. Lots of people were stating they had issues ordering. They had like the website would just kind of sit there and forever load. Like they just couldn't get in. They couldn't get their orders in. Why don't you go ahead? Tell us about you and Sheep on Sunday. You, Sheep, and X-Ray. I'm sorry, Dr. Drazray.
Well, so actually, maybe we should. I put that note first, but
you want to go in. You want to go into
what we got.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then we can talk about that Sunday night.
Okay.
Right. So.
Drazcor, how many did you get? How many dozen boxes did you get?
All right, so basically, I guess I'll tell the whole story. So basically, when I saw it on Saturday, right, I immediately jumped on it, right? I was like, okay, this is for real. It's on Asmodee. I went in, it looks for real. And I said, all right, I'm going to get some Mass Mutation and I'm going to get some Worlds Collide. So the first entry I put in was 50 Worlds Collide and 50 Mass Mutation. And it took me 30, 45 minutes, something like that, to actually get it to submit. And then I was sitting there and thinking about it. Actually, we had to run out the door. And I'm, driving wherever I'm driving. I'm thinking about it. It's like, as I was trying to get in, I saw there was accessories on sale too. And I'm like, oh, I should have gotten accessories, right? So then I
had a tough time finding the accessories too. They weren't exactly like, boom, right there. Like I could find the decks pretty easy, but the accessories were a little tougher to find.
Well, we just searched Keyforge and they came up. But yes, yeah. So then we were out wherever we were. So then I'm on my phone, right? I'm like, messaging in the Discords, and I'm like looking again. And I'm starting adding slowly because it was painful. Adding various accessories in my cart, and I'm like, well, I'll get more decks while I'm at it. So I got another 50 Mass Mutation. So at this point, I'm up to
100 and 50 Worlds Collide.
And 50 Worlds Collide. And that was Saturday. And then on Sunday, the numbers are going down, right? People are seeing you can, like we said, view how many decks are left. And there's, Sunday morning, there's, I don't know, 8,000 left, something like that, 7,000 left. And we we weekly. So our Sunday nights, Archon, right?
Normal tournament,
event on
normal.
TCO. Yep.
No, Sundays
Chainbound.
is Chainbound.
Yep. And so we were chatting about it and all this. And after the matches are over, Sheep, X-Ray, myself, like we're looking at it, we're like, oh, there's like 4,000 left or something, right? And or maybe that was right before it started. I think it was 4,000 right before our matches started, whatever. So we're afterwards, and we were just sort of chatting. We're like, well, like it'll probably sell out at some point, and we were just sort of talking about like, is this going to be the last easy chance to get some of these? And then we went and looked, and there was only 1,400 left. We were like, it hasn't been that long, and there's 1,400. And we started talking with each other, like, oh, well, maybe it's going to be low. And then Sheep was like, well, if it gets down to like 500, maybe I should just buy out the rest.
Buy out Asmodee.
Yeah. And
That's
and
the thing
so
Sheep would do.
we refresh, and it goes from 1,400 to like 800. We're like, ooh, like what's going on here?
Yep, 600.
It's going down. And so we all start like talking to each other, refreshes down to 700. We're like, oh my gosh. And then Sheep's like, should I do this? And we're like, wait, we want to do this. It's Sheep, X-Ray, and I talk each other into all buying more. Like when it's down, getting close to 500 or 600. So I bought another 100. X-Ray bought a bunch. Sheep bought a whole bunch, and then it was
Sheep
all gone.
bought the rest.
Yep.
Sounds
Sheep
about
was
right.
out. Yeah.
This is what happens when you hang out with degenerates. You go ahead and fall in with
We're like,
more
we gotta
degenerates.
click. We gotta click before Sheep does. 'cause
Click
we get all the
faster.
rest.
Click faster.
Yes. We're like, come on, website.
Sheep's like, nope, buy them all.
So yeah, 200 Mass Mutation, 50 Worlds Collide, a whole bunch of deck boxes, deck vaults, all that stuff is what I ended up with. What about you guys?
Ewok, what'd you buy?
So my experience was very different from most other individuals. It happened to be about 2:00 Saturday afternoon Central Time. As I said, I was sitting ready to go for watching a show, a dance recital, and so I just happened to have my phone out, and I saw the link, and I'm like, Asmodee, well, I trust it. And I said, you know what? I'll throw 100 down. And that's basically what I did. I got 48 decks, so 4 boxes of Worlds Collide and 48 decks of MM, meaning 4 boxes of MM. I felt very comfortable with that. I didn't want to go ahead and throw a whole bunch. I've gotten stung before with a couple other locations that have been posted for cheap decks. I figure if it was out 100, it's out 100. But in retrospect, I think FFG and Asmodee is a very reputable spot.
Mm-hmm.
I could have taken more. I think there's a bit of a debate online too in regards to people taking, how much they took and kind of what that was looking like. The rest of my afternoon, evening was booked with a recital, and then I left early to go and take my youngest to soccer. And we were also over at Highland Games. So they were running Highland Games at the soccer park. So we had there were sheepdogs there were sheep on the soccer field going ahead and herding them into an area. And we had bagpipes playing. So it was a whole day all by itself. But
Don't lie, you were happy during that recital to be struggling through the Asmodee website. You're like, thank you. Something to take my mind.
No. So this is the honest truth. This is the honest truth. When I saw, I was so early, and I kind of went back in. There's like 4 people above me. I clicked in. I went ahead and put in my 48. I think I originally had 40, and I'm like, now I'm just going to get 4 boxes, and so I changed it to 48. I hit submit. I was on my phone too, and everyone's saying they're having issues with mobile. I went ahead and got checked out. I went through as a guest. It took me 30 seconds and I was done. I kid you not. The whole experience for me was 30 seconds. I was checked in and out, and then I was watching everyone else post, and they're like, I can't get in. I'm waiting and waiting. And I'm like, okay, did I miss something? Like you start actually overthinking it. Like, okay, did I not press submit, or like what was happening?
So where did you get the notification from? Did you see it on a Discord, or did you see it?
It was on our Discord, and it actually came from Joker. It said last chance Asmodee, and and it was from Joker. So I saw that.
And you just went faster. Yeah.
I
You never
just
know.
happened to be there, and I'm like, well, I'll press submit. But
Yeah.
after word got out, it definitely slowed down. You could hear everyone groaning and so
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
frustrated.
I feel like the Asmodee.com must be running on a PC under somebody's desk.
It
And
still runs on dial-up, I heard.
Yep.
Word on the
Yep.
street. It still has one of those modems that goes.
Felt that way.
But picture this: any website is going to struggle, and as soon as all the discords hit and basically go live and say, "Hey, these decks are 99 cents," word traveled pretty fast within the group. We did see a picture of someone who is in the Minnesota area. One of the locals, they actually had roughly what we estimated about 2,000 decks in that picture alone. That they had, and it had the same sign, a box for $12 or an individual deck for 99 cents. And I think it's incredible to be able to see that pricing, especially Worlds Collide and Mass Mutation. So phenomenal finds, and I'm glad I jumped in it early. I appreciate everyone who was able to participate. I know that there was some frustration too from our international listeners in regards to international shipping.
Yeah, I know
It's
some
expensive.
of our Canadian friends were not happy that, they had to pay more in shipping than the box cost.
Correct.
Yep.
But
Even
I
though
mean,
Minnesota's like right there.
but being able to go ahead and see kind of in relation to the Ollie sell-off,
Yep.
a full box for $12 and coming from Asmodee, it was incredible. And then that they were including shipping if you're above $40. Just
Yeah.
that was wow. That's all I'm going to say. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and then if you're someone like me who ordered 3 different times, they're not even combining those orders. I actually got my third order of 100 decks first. That's what's sitting next to me here.
Oh, you got
I
them
got
already?
Yeah.
that
wow.
third order I
Oh, wow.
got.
I was surprised it shipped that
my
fast.
first and second orders have not shipped. I got a shipping notice for one of them. So I have
So what you're telling me is USPS is faster than Asmodee's connection to the internet.
this was UPS, but that delivered this. But
Wow.
yes, which I believe.
Yeah.
And as I sit here on Saturday evening, I did receive notification from UPS on Friday that my delivery should be here on Monday.
Right on. Awesome. So, my experience was quite pleasant. I bought 0. I did not buy one single deck. None. Not a one.
Tell us why.
Yeah.
Well, I figured your basement can't handle any more of my trash. So, I'm not interested. I'm looking forward, and not looking backward. And for me, again, here's the pessimist in me. I get the feeling that Keyforge 2.0 will be coming shortly, and anything you have bought in previous to DT will not be viable in Keyforge 2.0. Now, whether they call it Keyforge 2.0 or whatever, right on, like, good on them. But that's just the feeling I get. I could be wrong. I've been wrong plenty of times. I'll be wrong again in the future, but that's just the feeling I get. Yeah, and just, the headache, I don't mind cracking decks, but the headache of the websites, hearing everyone else's issues and problems and complaints, I wasn't interested. I should have. Then I found out about ABR, and we'll get there shortly, but
yeah, I think with 28,000 decks there, especially how quickly they sold out, I think it says a huge signal, in my opinion, to FFG, to Asmodee. Like, this game, there is still individuals who are very interested, who are enjoying it, who are participating, considering where real live Vault Tour large tournament scene has not existed for multiple years. It's just incredible to see that amount sell out, and to sell out that quickly. And I think Worlds Collide and MM is a blast to be able to play. So I feel very comfortable with the 4 boxes that I have. hopefully you can get something fun. And there is that little addict where you want to be able to crack a good deck. So we'll see with what was open, but there was a lot of excitement. If you want to see like new players, we've heard online individuals have they're using it for various reasons, which I guess we can talk about later. But there's been some large whales that have purchased quite a bit. There's been some smaller people who've purchased smaller amounts of decks, but the overall excitement around this listing and the sale price, it felt like a steal when you have, instead of $10 for a deck, it was $1.
Yeah. I mean, 90% off is
Right.
Correct.
That's
massive.
a huge, massive discount. But let's get into some of the theories, right? I told you my theory. I guess I can also read off the pessimistic theory since I am
before
the
you
pessimist, before I get too far.
Yeah, so let's chat about your theory for a second. So I don't think so, right? In that I feel like there's very little reason to say, hey, for Vault Tours in the future, DT is viable, but stuff before it's not, right? There's not really
Sure.
there's not really I can't think of a good reason to say or do that. Now, a related one, I know I'm skipping down the list a little bit, but one that maybe is, to me, maybe slightly more plausible is that what if the digital client only works for DT forward, so they don't need to worry about, Dragoggle and stuff like that.
Sure.
But
See, and here's why I say 2.0, and this has kind of been in my mind. There's a lot of clunky interactions, MM and previous.
a lot of fun interactions.
So there's a lot of fun interactions, but a lot of them are super duper clunky too, right? And if you're a new player and everything is equal, right? Let's say you find a coded deck in the wild. You crack it open, and here's a library access. This card seems busted, and we figure out the library access Nepseed combo. But we don't know about the ruling that has come down. Then you go to a tournament or a vault tour or whatever, right? This has happened with other games, sure, absolutely. But this is another way for them to get that fresh start that I don't know if Keyforge needed, but is definitely a thing that, again, moving forward would be kind of good for the game. Your Jar Googles, your what's the owl? I'm totally drawing a blank on his name. Archimedes. Stuff like that where it's just kind of clunky. This would be a way for them to kind of hit the reset button a little bit and smooth some things over.
But there's almost a reason to do that for in-person play, right? They've already errated some stuff. They could errata more if they really wanted to.
But then again, it takes out cards that a lot of people complain about too, right?
But any card game that I've seen, plenty of the miniatures games, there's errata all the time.
Sure.
I just don't see that as the choice of what's being made. I guess the biggest struggle that I'm having right now is to see that they would keep DT. I'm going to tell you this. If they're going to do Keyforge 2.0, I think it would really, really upset people if they didn't include any of the previous Keyforge. That would be really challenging
and here's
myself
the thing,
to continue.
There are sets out there that are obviously stronger than others too, right?
Fine, but they came in saying that it was going to be evergreen from the beginning. So for them to keep just DT and to nix everything else doesn't make logical sense. If they're going to do Keyforge 2.0, they're basically going to have to go ahead and reboot. They would have to pause. Here's the first set, and this is what we're starting over. And I only say that from my experience with Mech Warrior. Mech Warrior did a reboot, and it did hurt. We lost some individuals playing Mech Warrior when we did Mech Warrior 2.0. I don't see that. It's interesting how the algorithm was lost. We still haven't received information on that, and we're back up. I think if you're going to make it clear,
because here's my short and skinny. We had one guy who did it in his free time in less than a month.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like Sky Jedi got the basically from what we knew to that point, the algorithm back up, back running, able to create decks in less than a month.
Mhm. Right.
Now,
Well,
Sky
but their
Jedi is
strategy-
he's a very intelligent guy.
Sure.
You know, very, very intelligent. But I think any good coder worth his weight in salt could definitely have gotten that done in a reasonable amount of time, not 6
Yeah,
months.
but their strategy is not to just purely do the same thing they did before, right? Their
Correct.
strategy is to build it into the algorithm, integrate it from that perspective, right? And we've heard anecdotally, I don't know if it's true, but we've heard anecdotally that the code to integrate with the printers to print in this special way is
It's
more
problematic.
complex than
Yep.
the generation of decks. Now, I still believe you could write that, even if it's more complex. It's not, I'm sure it's not, 6 months more complex, but
Yeah.
it's a real thing. But it's because they want to fully integrate it into the full digital client. Which, hey, if you have to take a pause,
Now's a good time.
Yeah, seems like a reasonable time to do it, right?
Adequate.
And building a full feature app that's going to handle all the sets, future sets, that's going to look good, that's going to engage folks that aren't hardcore like us. That does take time and money.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that's what's going on right now.
Hopefully. Should we get into the theories?
Yeah. I think there's some interesting ones.
I'll read the pessimistic one since I'm pessimist.
Of course, go for
I
it.
think JR should read the optimistic one.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess you guys can flip a coin.
It'll be fine.
You're both kind of optimists, and then we can get to the other one. So, pessimistic theory: liquidization, because they don't want to say it's dead. That's all you wrote.
Right. They don't want to say it's dead before they sell everything.
Oh,
Correct.
so
Because they wouldn't be able to make money. They would just go ahead.
There's still stuff to sell, and you still have you basically still have a whole
You
set.
got 28,000 a similar probably amount of Worlds Collide. So you're sitting on 50,000 decks, right? The pessimistic theory is, well, hey, if I'm sitting on an inventory of 50,000 and I'm supposed to sell that at $10 a pop, that's $500,000 worth of inventory, right? So,
and then really you still need people to buy DT, and supposedly we have a set that's getting ready to be printed.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the question: how much did they lose by going ahead and liquidating it down to $1?
That is a good question, right? Like,
I think it's a very good question from a business standpoint, and being able to see it. Like,
I would say I would say about $3 a deck.
Correct. I usually think that 50% of what you see for retail is what it's running them, but does that include all the personnel? Does that include the shipping?
50% of retail is what they would be giving it to like your distributor for.
Yes.
So then 50% of that was probably
a quarter,
what they were selling it to the distributor for. And then 50% of that is probably roughly what it costs them to build it. So I would say roughly $3 a deck. So
it's interesting, right? Because I don't really know anything about printing costs, but I imagine if you think about physical creation, right, at the lot sizes they had for MM and Worlds Collide, if they had this many of those sets at this point, and those sets have sold, I guess, relatively well, they had a lot more, right? So they had a big print run for these sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that greatly reduces the per deck cost,
right? That's why I'm saying it was probably a $250 a deck is what it cost them.
I wonder if it actually costs a lot less per deck, but you have to include the stuff on the side, which is the development costs, the
wrapping,
costs,
marketing,
right? Yeah, like all that.
So just hard sales decks, not including marketing and all the people involved, because obviously there's salaries involved. So all that fun stuff. I mean, I would say roughly $125,000 to $200,000 is what they lost.
Could be
somewhere in that vicinity. Shipping, sure, and then all that fun, shipping. I think they'd probably do it somewhere in China, so they're shipping from China to here. So I would say, once you put in shipping, and all that fun stuff, they probably lost roughly $200,000. Would be my guess.
Yeah, we know that it was. We know that these decks came from China. They had their German producer and they had their Chinese. So we understand and know that.
Germany.
So this is Germany. I mean, you're coming from Europe. So if you're looking at the decks, you can see that.
Yep, I'm looking at it right now.
That's easy enough to locate.
All right, what's the optimistic theory?
So the optimistic theory is that the parent company wants to be able to make warehouse space before new decks are ordered for the new upcoming set, which means that there could be an announcement coming soon. We're hopeful for Gen Con this year. I definitely can go ahead and see the need for opening up space in their warehouse in order to ship out after the whole Target debacle. You need to have some warehouse space. I think it's also interesting to point out that they did not put DT on sale.
Yep.
And I really want to hint at this, focus on it. DT is the most recent set, but if you're looking at Worlds Collide came out just right before the pandemic. We did have the Vault Tour in Indianapolis, but then things pretty much we didn't see any other real play. And MM by itself,
there was 3 or 4 Vault Tours with Worlds Collide, but not many.
But not many. And then we went to MM, which was
I don't know if there was
pandemic.
3. I think there was the release and then one other one. And I think that's when the pandemic hit.
So if we go backwards, right? Dallas had it. Albany had it.
Albany had it? I thought Albany was before Worlds Collide.
We can.
Was it? I thought.
Regardless, there wasn't many.
Well, it had to. It definitely had it, because if you go one further back, Philadelphia, it was MM sealed, or it was Worlds Collide sealed.
Oh yeah, that was Dallas, right?
No, that was Philadelphia.
No, that was Philadelphia. Okay, well, okay, you might be right then.
Yeah, so I'm off, but Worlds Collide, I mean, these are not brand new sets. These are sets that have been out for a while, and that's what I wanted to be able to get at. Worlds Collide, if it has been out, I think this has been sitting in warehouse, taking up space for multiple years. And eventually you do have to make a decision to be able to move it. Even if it's not for other Keyforge decks, you have to be able to move it so that you can bring in other games from Asmodee, from FFG, from whatever you're going to be able to be bringing in for a game. And that could be a brand new set from Keyforge.
Sure, it could be.
But if the decks are sitting there, they're not making any money at all.
Right.
So at a certain point, there was a decision that, hey, we need to be able to move this, even if we're taking a loss.
Well, there was a sale on AOA at one point, a very similar sale, was there not?
So my understanding for AOA is that AOA went to kind of the large box, and that was Ollie's that we saw. But outside of that, I did not see AOA in the same manner where there was a huge sell-off at FFG's, warehouse. And so we have both the physical.
Had said something. There was a big sell-off. Maybe it wasn't to that extent, but I don't know. I thought he said something, but maybe he didn't.
I did not see anywhere near the 28,000. Yeah.
I do think. Well, I think they overprinted Worlds Collide. They overprinted Mass Mutation. Obviously, they overprinted AOA, Coda. Right. I think they were like, hey, either they themselves, or it's possible the Embracer Group, right, is now the parent company of Asmodee, said, hey, like, you guys need to follow certain good practices, and you need to, like, before you release new sets, you really need to get rid of the old stuff that's going to be less and less desirable over time, and you need to right size your print runs because you're printing too much, and you need to start right sizing them. Now,
I can see the right sizing, but I don't think that they printed too much. I think that they overprinted AOA based on what the demand from Coda was, that they had to do a second print run. And so once Ollie's had gone through their acquisition of here's the extra decks and it was sold off really cheap, I thought that was going to be it. But you have to remember, we've been in a pandemic, and so you haven't had in live play. So in real life play, there's many sealed decks that don't get cracked for our small little stores because we don't have people, they haven't been going into the store. And as a result, the game has lost a little bit of momentum. In the same manner, you didn't have a single big event outside of Keyforge Live that ran MM.
Mhm.
And you'd be projecting your numbers with pre-pandemic information, and
Right.
being in a
Sure.
pandemic, I just think that had a bigger impact on what the sales are than what the company initially planned. You
That's
also
fair.
have to
That's fair.
know that for print runs, there's a discount based on how many you're going ahead and printing. So all of that figured in, but I think the pandemic had a larger impact than what we're aware of.
So the next
Sure.
theory is
Well,
Draz
it's
course
interesting.
theory. I want to go into this one because this you've tickled my interest, sir.
The next one, the other theory.
Yeah,
Well,
DT will only be playable in the digital client. Now
right,
you
DT
said
and
there was
on, basically.
right, but you said there was like we'll talk about it. Consider
Just that it was in the notes here. So that there are older cards like Jargoggle and stuff like that which are challenging to implement in a digital context. And if they weren't thinking that hard about the digital context, they sort of thought maybe in the future, but didn't really run it by programmers before they were building cards and stuff to be like, hey, how easy or hard do you think this would be to program, right? And because right, like being in the software industry myself, right, a small change in requirements can make a massive difference in the cost of your software, right?
right.
Goes from something that is next to off the shelf to something that's massively custom, right? Because you just want to tweak it in this one little way, right? And one of the things I do in real life is like help our business partners understand, like, hey, and I even say to them, like, hey guys, like we can do anything in IT land. We can build you like whatever your heart desires. But but should we, right? Like
But
if
you better
we
crack open that wallet.
yeah, like if we think about this wisely, right? And we all work for it's an internal IT, right? So
Right.
it's all we're coding for our own business. We're not trying to sell this software and make a buck, right? We're all working towards the same goal. It's like, hey, like we could write it this way for X, or we could write it that way for 10X. Like, are you sure you want to do it 10X, right? Like, and
How
having those sorts of
important
conversations.
is this to you?
Right. This one little feature
Right.
is really going to jack up the cost, right? And let's look for alternatives, right? So it's possible. And I didn't come up with this theory. I saw in the forums folks were throwing conjecture out on this, and I was like, that's an interesting thought. I don't know if it's true. But this was the thought as to why DT is not on sale, but the others are,
Mhm.
because they feel like, hey, once we release the digital client, um, we're not going to be able to sell ones that aren't compatible with the digital client. So let's get them all out of our inventory such that we're not going to have them sitting there, and maybe we won't. Right now, we feel like we could look at them relatively quickly, which they're right. But maybe once the digital client comes out and they're not playable there, maybe we wouldn't be able to.
Mhm.
So that's a thought. that was
Next
floating around
option
out
also tickles me interest. They sold the
Yeah.
IP. It will lose the rights to sell anything before DT, or the seller bought the DT lots. I
Yeah,
don't know
they
if
said,
that one
yeah.
is necessarily true because obviously they still have DT. Like you wrote down in our notes, there's 2,700 DT decks available on the Asmodee website.
Which is a super interesting thing, by the way, because when they started this sale, there were 28,000 decks, similar number of Worlds Collide decks. They haven't sold that many DT decks during the sale, I would assume, right? So that means, and we know just by registrations, and we know by it's not like DT has gone bonkers in selling, unlike and WC, right? They printed a lot less DT.
Which would go
And it's-
back to what Ewok said of, hey, they knew they weren't, they already knew they weren't doing any sort of like vault tours, so no sealed events, you know what I mean? So there's no need to allocate stock for that sort of thing. You know what I mean? I don't know what their thoughts were on getting it for, store sales. But obviously, there are people who make lots of money who just sit there and crunch numbers all day to kind of figure that sort of thing out. So,
yep,
that's not me.
So it's also plausible the only reason that DT wasn't on massive sale is because they're like, with 2,700, just at $10 a pop, those will sell out in a reasonable time frame.
Right.
That is
the fact of them selling the IP, and I'm not gonna lie, I've asked how much they want for it. I have never got a response.
They didn't tell you all your space dollars.
No, not all my space dollars, but I mean, I was interested at one point in time, during the low. I'm like, how much would this IP like legitimately cost me if I put my big boy pants on and said I want to step my foot into this avenue? How much would it cost? No response. But I'm not a company. They're not going to talk to me. Like I didn't expect a response either. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess who would be on the table to buy it is the next question.
I mean, there's obviously other gaming companies out there. There's companies doing card games and whatnot, right? There's
Sure.
I'm not intimately familiar with all of them, but I don't know. Like, I don't know that Wizards.
I don't think Wizards would be interested because my next thing is like, you have the new kid on the block here too in LSS with Flesh and Blood. You know what I mean? Obviously that's another competitor to the scene. You already had Yu-Gi-Oh, you already had Magic, you already had Pokemon, and there seems to be a lot of new card games coming out. Like Flesh and Blood came out. I guess the My Hero Academia card game is like, I guess, doing okay. Like I'm not intimately following it, but it seems to be doing okay for itself. Final Fantasy is still floating around out there. There's lots of them.
Top 10 the other day.
Top
right?
10 a couple episodes ago. I don't know if it's last episode.
You can imagine a strategy, and I don't know if this would be a great strategy or not, but you could imagine one of those other companies saying, hey, if we want to make a run at Wizards, it's probably challenging to say this one game we're going to just out and out beat Magic. But you can imagine a strategy where it's like, hey, what if we gathered a portfolio of games, each of which are targeting a different portion of the market, and in aggregate, we're going to have all these, we're going to pool resources to have, Vault Tours combined with whatever, Digimon tournaments. I don't know. I'm making this all up, right? But we're going to pool some of these resources such that in aggregate, right, we're going to find the things where folks aren't necessarily competing for the same players, but then in aggregate we're competing against Magic that way. I don't know. I'm just totally making that up. Don't know if that's a good business strategy or not, but yeah, I
don't think
see
so.
Something like that.
I don't think that's good business strategy.
All right.
I mean, I don't think you would ever like try to be like. I don't know. Like it's so tough. Like everybody's made the run. This is the Magic killer. This is the Magic killer. It was like Call of Duty. Remember every year they're like, oh, this is this is the video game that's going to dethrone Call of Duty. I don't think you can ever really honestly dethrone Magic.
That's what I'm saying. Don't try to dethrone it with one game. You just try to build enough games that go.
But then you have to remember the company that's behind Magic. Or I shouldn't even say like the company that's behind Wizards of the Coast. The company that owns them. I don't know if you want to get into a pissing war with Hasbro.
Well, they're competing, right?
Right. I just don't know if you want to get in. I mean, if you try to go up against Hasbro, I don't think you win.
I think there's enough space right now. What FFG Asmodee really needs to invest in is the people. the players.
Yeah.
You take care of the players, and that's what we saw. Flesh and Blood was again coming out and taking care of the players. Now they've run into some other issues. I struggle with some of these theories when I'm looking at the digital client. There's always going to be cards that are going to come out in future sets. I can see the idea for IP, but it was said that it was evergreen. I think that you're going to have to make a complete split for Keyforge 2.0. I think that we're going to enjoy these decks that are here at a really nice price. And I think that if we want to be able to build the community, we have to first invest in content creators. Go ahead and invest in the local store again. And I mean, actually invest in the local store and invest in the local player. This pandemic and
I mean, one thing LSS did fantastic to really get stores to come on board. And I know there's a lot of stores. I guess they're only in like 33% market share of gaming stores across the United States. However, within 2 years and through a pandemic, that's a real good. I mean, to me, like if I saw that and I was like, hey, we went through a full pandemic where things were closed down, yet we still got 33% of gaming stores across America to buy into our product and to carry our product and to do stuff for our product. I would say that's a pretty good accomplishment for not only that, your first year release, you're going through a pandemic where there's literally going to be nobody in stores, and you've already said like, oh, this product it is meant to be played in flesh and blood. We will not have an online client. Already preordained, we will not have an online client at all. It's not going to happen.
But they were honest, they were open, and they stuck to that. And I think that Keyforge would do very well with an online client, but I think that we also have to have in-person play.
But what I was saying, like where I was going with that is LSS did a fantastic job of getting stores on board. How they did that is they gave free prize support. They didn't make you buy it. They just said, oh, you want to run events? Cool. Here's stuff so that you are able to run events. As opposed to, and I know like $35 doesn't seem like a ton. And I don't know what the kits, I know at the time they were $35. I don't know what they are now. But, $35 for a store that doesn't even know if it's going to see players, doesn't even know how the turnout's going to be. I mean, that margins are already slim for a lot of, game stores. So why squeeze them for more? Why not just be like, hey, here's some stuff, run events, have fun. We'll see you guys later. If you need more, let us know. You know what I mean? Like
that requires trust in your game, that your game is that upper echelon of quality that players will come out.
Well, I mean, I don't know. One time Keyforge was really stroking it, and now here we are. So, running into a time crunch here. So let's get into the ABR. Is it just MM? I thought it was WC and MM.
No, MM.
Just MM sealed extravaganza. Obviously, that will be coming up. Will we see Dr. Drazray? I'm sure we will.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that what's really important that we talk about is some of the different communities have really approached the decks that they got in different ways. I know that ABR said, hey, there are these live decks. Let's go ahead and let's throw a fun event together. And that is a team event with 3 players, and you're going to crack open 9 MM decks. And that could be from your local store. It could be from the big Asmodee sell-off. But you're going to go ahead and take 9 sealed decks, and from those sealed decks, you're going to be able to choose one that was a reversal, one that was adaptive, and then the third was that just straight Archon.
I believe so, yeah.
So they're trying to make different events with this acquisition of decks. I know that some people pooled because shipping was extremely high for different countries. And so, players came in and worked together to be able to make it so that it was efficient, as efficient as possible, and as minimal on the shipping costs as possible.
Right. Yeah,
but it's going to locals.
Yeah, I know Emperor Raikou, who's in Vietnam, pooled with his locals there, and he put in an order for 1,000 decks
Mhm.
to be shipped to Vietnam and distributed amongst his locals. So that was pretty cool.
I
Well-
know that Joker had talked about putting on an event. He has one of the Vault Warrior items coming up. He'll use those decks. So when I see players, when I see people who aren't just, hey, I'm going to crack all of these decks open, because some people were worried, like, oh, why is it okay, or is this good for the game, or is this not good for the game if we're going to have a couple people open up all these decks? Well, there's some really, really generous individuals in this community, and there's some individuals who purchased for others or are using the decks in order to further the community, and that's what I love to see.
But bravo to the ABR team getting the Wookiee out of retirement. I will be joining this go round, I guess, this season. I really don't know what to talk about of ABR. I'll be joining Custodian and Ewok.
Wait.
We haven't gotten into details yet, but I'm coming out of retirement, boys. I'm dusting it off.
Well, we can post this here. We had a number of names that we have, so you should definitely jump on the AC Discord and be able to give us a shout out with what you like. I think that we have it down to play it for the pip.
Mm-hmm.
Ewokdian or Ewookdian.
Ewookdian.
Custodian Wook.
Wookwalk.
Oh, sorry, Wookwalk.
You
Wookwalk.
gotta shorten that to Custy Wook.
That wasn't even on the list.
That's great.
no.
I love it. Custy Wook.
I mean, Wookie, you are like, is bra taken. So yeah, tell us.
Weird story.
us a
They're not
name.
even in one set. I don't know. I was a big fan of Ewookdian. It's that's my vote. But there's 3 of us, so I don't know what your vote is.
I just can't wait for you to pick some name, and then just like you were giving us a hard time about Dr. Drazway,
Yep.
I'm just gonna give you a hard time about how terrible your choice was.
I definitely
maybe
think-
our name is going to be Dr. Drazway sucks.
Oh.
Maybe our name is going to be Dr. Drazway is the worst ABR team name ever.
I love it. That's good.
We'll
If
get
you
it
do
in.
that,
We'll get it in.
I will not make fun of you. I will applaud you.
So on a different note, Draz, I know that you got your 3rd shipment already. So
Yes.
what have you opened? What is your strategy with the decks that are coming to you?
Yeah, so I know some people just started just cracking like crazy. Right. So I know Grathan just like plowed through deck after deck after deck. I don't think that's the right strategy, right? I think for the most part, if you're just plowing through decks like that without playing them, just looking for absolute top tier, chances are you're going to be disappointed, or maybe you do find that one magical deck and however many you got, and the rest of them you're just going to ignore, right? My strategy and what I recommend to folks is to open a little bit at a time, play those decks, right? When I got this box on Friday, had one of my locals come over, and she's one of the folks who just plays casually, right? But we just started opening decks and playing them against each other, and just had a whole bunch of fun Friday evening, just playing a whole bunch of stuff. And I'd recommend doing something like that, right? Open a bit at a time, play them, right? And wait a bit.
It probably
open
depends
some
on what
more.
you're looking for. If you're like Corythan or myself, we're looking for the smoke. So yeah, I mean, if I got a bunch of decks, I would just crack, scan. What's the fire? What's the knot? And decipher from there. You know.
But
if you're looking to have some fun, yeah, I would
Which
say your
hopefully we are, right?
your strategy is
Game.
correct. Yeah.
Why would we not want to have fun? I mean, there's too many decks that
There's
are
no
just
fun in
mid.
Keyforge. This is all about winning.
But it's not. I mean, we don't really have competitive Keyforge. That we don't have our Vault Tour, Vault Warrior that's out there right now.
Right.
So
no, I get it.
I mean, here, how about you go ahead and you start a YouTube channel and you go ahead and just open a box and play the decks against each other, or you bring over a friend and you play the decks against each other and see who is able to win, or you play it against your spouse, or but like be creative,
I feel
but
like
use
he's dropping
something
hints. Like, this is what we should do, Wookie. Here's a hint.
Well, I'm just saying by just cracking the decks, there is a lot of joy in Sealed, and we have missed that. I mean, I'm blessed to be able to have AC where I can go ahead and play, but our local scene is not where it was, and that's just based on our schedules don't line up and we can't get out.
Right.
But I think that play it, whether it's online or in person, play the decks. Why not? Play the decks. We're not looking to be able to go ahead and just crack decks to let them sit on the side. That's where I stand right now.
I mean, that's fine. Like I said, I think for cracking decks, there's different, just like the game, there's different strokes for different folks, So that's me. But let's move into final thoughts. My wife is looking to get to date night.
Ooh.
Yeah, we're gonna go out. The Wookiee is gonna get white girl wasted because
nice.
I have not myself relaxed from my job in probably over a year. So I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of relax, go out, have a drink or two, have some kitty with a handgun, IPAs. Don't know what they're actually called, but that's what I call them.
I don't know. I'm just picturing you walking up to the bar and ordering vodka G Fuel.
If I were to order vodka, it would 100% be a screwdriver. I like the I'm a big fan of screwdrivers. I used to do the vodka Red Bull, but the heartburn just couldn't do it. Too much heartburn. So it'll either be like, if it's vodka, it's vodka cranberry, or it would be vodka or OJ, the old screwdriver.
I'm not actually a big vodka fan. I like something with a little more flavor.
I mean, it's like I tell my wife, vodka's just there to make other things alcoholic. That's
true.
It's the only purpose to vodka in the world is it, well, to a degree, should be flavorless, right? Because it's, vodka, and it just makes whatever you're putting it into now have alcohol in it. So there's that. But we'll see.
So my only question to reset, do you guys think that the sell-off of the decks was a good thing for our local stores or not?
Nope. I'm sure there's a lot of local stores that are very pissed.
Well, because that's what came out, is that they weren't even contacted. So that was the only question that, while it's great for me as a player.
Like, why would they do that? Like, if they've made the decision to do this sell-off, what benefit is there by raising the awareness of the local store that, hey, we're going to do this thing?
Well, I think what he's talking about is giving them the opportunity to buy it at a buck a deck.
Oh,
right.
I see.
Give it to your local game store first. Because we've talked about it many times here.
Well, you got to go through the distributor, right?
Right.
Like,
well, no, you don't necessarily have to. Asmodee can do their own distribution, but offer it to them at a buck a pop. Maybe the local game store cuts the player a break. Or hopefully, the local game store cuts them a break and says, $3 a deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
gets everybody back in. It kind of maybe mends a little, because you got to remember there's a lot of local game stores who have quite a significant amount of stock. One that's not too far away from me and Ewok is Games Universe, and I know they have quite a bit of stock at Keyforge, and now they got to compete with Asmodee going buck a deck, and they're sitting over here going $9.95. Woof. You know what I mean? It's a tough sell for them. So now they're sitting on stock that is next to impossible to move, right? Because nobody's going to buy them at $10 a deck when you can buy them at $1 a deck.
Well, it sold out quickly.
Well, this is true, but now you've flooded the market for the people who do want to buy them. Now have them, and they got them significantly cheaper. So now the local game store's got to sit on basically dead stock. not
know
great for a game that needs to come back. And again, in my opinion, needs the game store to be on their side.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That was the only. I know it was talked about online for a bit. I think that actually leans a little bit heavier towards an earlier release for digital client, in my opinion. So maybe I'm just completely optimistic on that side.
Maybe,
but
hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, Gen Con is, let's see, 2 months away.
Yeah, it's
July,
early.
August. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it
less
early?
than 2 months.
Is
It's
it
like
early
7 weeks.
August?
Yeah, it's that first
Is it
weekend
that
in
first
August.
week
Yeah,
of August? So
because I will be out at our national parks.
So Gen Con, 7 weeks away. They always do the in-flight report, so I guess we'll kind of wait and see. That's
Yep.
I mean that's
Yeah,
where we've been
August-
for over
August
a year.
4th,
Wait and
August
see.
4th or 7th.
August
Gen
4th
This
through
Con.
7th.
does raise a little bit in my head the percentage chance that they announce something there.
All right. So I don't know what Occam's razor. Maybe it's not. So they do this sale, and Gen Con rolls around, and crickets. Not a thing. Are you getting nervous?
Well,
I'm gonna-
I had previously said that I'm not concerned until unless they didn't talk about this in Gen Con 2023.
So even after the sale, if they don't
But
say
I mean, the
anything,
sale
it's still
both raises the prospects a little bit that they'll say something, and also raises my disappointment a little bit if they don't say something.
right.
The sale, in my opinion, has no play on where I think the state of the game is. I do think that Asmodee, FFG, I think that they have to go ahead and make an announcement either before Gen Con or at Gen Con in regards to the state of the game and what's happening. I think they need to return to play almost immediately after. Here's the next set. Here is when it's releasing. Oh, by the way, we have decks at Gen Con. Grab them. I think that this could have been a stunt in order to build up some excitement over the game again. And it definitely, I mean, if you want to see 28,000 decks sold out in a couple of days, there is excitement. But I think that for me, this Gen Con is going to be a big Gen Con that the game has to be able to get some more legs and it has to return to in real life play at a higher tiered level.
Because as of we know that, I mean, FFG, as far as what we've heard, has no plans on having Keyforge events at Gen Con this year.
Correct.
I believe Arthur is the only one that will be doing anything for Keyforge at Gen Con.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they say something, I think it'll be looking to a future date, right? I don't think they're going to say, oh, raise the curtain. Here's all the displays for Winds of Exchange. I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm interesting. Next 7 weeks should be fun. I'm surprised they released no sort of anything, though. Like, just no sort of statement. Just like kind of, they just dropped like, here we go. We're doing a sale. Buy them.
Yep.
And that was it. Like, there was nothing. So for me, that's kind of a, you know what I mean? It does make me a little nervous.
We will find out.
What kind of kept my faith was the DT was not on sale.
Yep, that
okay.
helped.
Okay, you got 2 sets. Yeah, I get it. They're older sets. They kind of need to be moved. Fine. So, but then, I mean, if DT was also at a bucket deck, I would be like, whoa, this is the end. This is it. It's over. Next month, we're moving forward with a different game. It's now called key flipping or something. I don't know.
Pogs?
Yeah, Pogs. It's not called Pogs. Yeah. I mean, but let's move into final thoughts. Drazcore, what do you got?
So I wrote a couple of haikus while we were
all right,
waiting
Ewok,
to
what do
get
you
ready.
got?
So I'm gonna now regale you all with my with my haikus. Here we go.
All right.
Chatting in Discord. How long will the supply last? We just bought them all.
All right, Ewok, what do you got for your final? No more haikus. We can't do no more haikus. No. We did this once already. That was on Valentine's Day. Ewok, what do you got?
I'm excited for the news. I know that a lot of people see it as negative, but if you got decks, enjoy the decks. Go ahead and play an ABR. Look for jokers with Vault Warrior. AC, I know, has some ideas taken around as well. Enjoy the game, play the decks, have fun. Take them to your local store. I mean, goodness, at $1, open it up. If it's no good, give it to someone else. Bring them in. Have fun.
First one's always free, boys.
But have fun. Have fun with the
crack
game.
dealers say. Oh, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Let's have some fun. There's tons of decks out there. If the Wookiee can come out of retirement for ABR, so can you. So maybe, just have some fun. Come on in. I don't know what I'll be doing, but I'm probably going to go. I don't know. What do you do? Rounds? Is it rounds in ABR? This is my first ABR. I've never played.
Well, this format is a little different. So, don't know that we know all the exact rules yet, since it's not quite the same to what they've done. Like, I don't know if this is officially going to be called ABR 8. This is like season 7.5 for this sealed situation.
Well, the Wookiee's coming out of retirement.
Yeah,
and I think more people should. So that's going to do it for this week, guys. We said we were going to go 45 minutes. We went 1 hour and 10. Don't know how that happened, but it happened.
As we do.
So that's going to do it for us this week. We'll see y'all next time.
Be fortunate.
One thing on my mind is to get my party on. You can't stop, brother. No. 24/7, 365 a year. And we know the end is near. You can't stop me, no. If this was the last day